Yeah, I think we're good to sort of plow on now and actually start creating the view. So this is the bit where, honestly, picking up the UI bits. Here, there's a lot of documentation in the Matter Horizon developers portal, which you should all have access to. It is open to everyone, I believe, still. Although just for my own sake, I'm not going to sort of put it on the screen, because I have noticed it was sealed off at one point. It is available to everyone. I'm not sure what's available to who. So just to go bam on that one, I'm going to at least set out. But yes, if you signed up to the MHCP, the Matter Horizon Creators Program, then you will know where that is. It will have been in the emails telling you to go read at the documentation. So yeah, going into the view engine, we're going to be looking at dynamic bindings today, which is something which people tend to stumble down on. Okay, so the initialize UI function, if you remember this, will be just put in some bank in here just to get it going. You can actually see that we're going to create a new view. Okay, and the syntax for that is, well, we're returning. We don't need a new one at early sync. View is just a method that we can clear. So what we're just going to put in curly brackets just here. And then when we go in here, I'm going to just make sure I've got an apostrophe at the end. This can get very, very unwieldy very fast if you don't pay attention to what you're doing. Okay, now I know from the documentation that the element body is going to be children, okay? And children is going to be an array of, as a UI node descended elements. So we'll just initialize that like so. Okay. And what I want in there, if I just pull this down a bit, I want to have, first of all, a text box that's going to say something fun like, my UI or whatever, my awesome mob tool. So let's say UI.text here. Okay. And then text again is another component. So if we open and close those brackets, and we're also going to have to open and close the curly brace inside, and we'll, I'm not going to put that at the end. Actually, that's a misstep. I'm going to put a comma at the end because remember we are in an arrays here. Okay, do I have lots of these? We have them all stacked up. Maybe I'll show you that in just a second. So if I say, like, for example, text in here is the property, we're going to set that to my awesome mod tool, like so. So if I just save that a sec, let's turn on the world sim and see what happens. We're going to just make sure it compiles. It helps, great. If I just minimize that, turn on the world sim, does anything happen? It doesn't. So I have noted there's some problems with this recently. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to just leave and come back. You may have to get used to doing this with the desktop tool for now. Hopefully that will be fixed at some point. That, yeah. Oh, no, actually, I'm sorry. Let me stop there. I just haven't attached the script. I think the script has become unattached. So if I go back in and click on the bring us in a sec. If I take attach script with this thing selected and I say yes, UI mod tool, so you can see, if you remember, that a 60 by 100 seems to have kicked in. And if I zoom out nice and close look, you actually see it's got our text in there. So just to give you a quick demo of that erasing that we were talking about. If I take this UI text and I just go, yeah, make sure you got the comma at the end for this, guys. This is really pedantic. If you get this wrong, you're going to get errors all over the place. So I'm going to say like line 2, 3, and actually we'll leave it like this, by the way. If I just save that now, and if I just minimize that, you should see in just a moment, maybe I have to refresh it. Yeah, you can see it's actually put in the other lines now. So there we go. Congrats. If you've made it this far, you've just created your very first custom UI. Now it's not interactive at this point. It doesn't do anything. But I just jump back to you. So we're going to get rid of these duplicate lines now. Okay. All right. So the next thing we're going to do is we're actually going to create a player list, all right? So because that's going to be a dynamic list, I could put it in the same, place. In the same sort of function. Well, let's do it here. Here we go. Or I could create a new method to sort of spread out a bit. Now, this is a good practice to go into early, okay? As confusing as it is. What I'm going to do is I'm going to create now something called like render. Naming doesn't matter, but it's just so I know by letting you know what it does. JList, okay? Open close brackets. And I know that that's going to be a UI node, okay? And if we can do that there. All right. So I'm now going to put this render clear list in here. This is going to be this dot render playlist, okay? I open close it. Now it's throwing a wobbly here and saying that it can't work like this because it needs to return something. So again, similar to the first problem we had, because you just do return item du, set UI.du, like so. Then you know that would fix it. It's basically demanding that to return a type of UI node, it needs to return something. So it's just big here, sat mice and any. Okay. But we don't want to return a static view here, do we? No. And we want to do a dynamic list. So if we go on for dynamic lists, which is under the UI alias as well. And now we're going to just expect that we've got to open braces and open curly braces. Okay, that's a thing. But again, this is highly documented. If you were to go into the Horizon sort of developer documentation, you will absolutely see all this stuff in glorious detail. That's how you just search for heady dynamic lists, and you will absolutely get there. Okay, and when you know the properties on that are going to be, well, first of all, data. A dynamic list needs data because it builds itself off data. That's really important. Now we could give it, I guess, this dot is it players in world. So basically this is going to define a repeating area that's going to show every player in here as a separate sort of list item. Now, behind the scenes, that's not actually going to work. And I wonder if it's going to tell us why. Yeah. So that little complicated error message up there says that the lightness only work with the types of bindings, okay? This is where it can get a little bit complicated, but I'll do my best to explain it. So what I'm going to do is go up to the top. So I'm going to take a copy of this and paste in below. And I'm going to give him the name. Find it. Oops, Bing Inker. I can't spell it apparently. Now this binding is actually going to be, we won't type it here. We'll just set it to an initialization process. This will be a new binding. This will be a new, user interface dot. I've got a load of things in my face right now. Come on, binding. Yeah. And that binding is of type player info. But it's an array of player info, I believe. Yeah, like so. I'm going to close that. But we also need to initialize it. Now, we're not going to use the equals for this when the binding. Okay. What we're going to do is we're going to use, I believe, it's a constructor. We actually have to pass in this dot players in world, which of course is initialized. It's initialized to be blank. So that's now creating this simple binding element that we can update later. Now, binding, a binding is like the underlying value wrapped in a sort of almost like a little internal notifier. So when the binding is updated, it knows where it's being used. It knows to sort of squeak out to all the layer elements that it's in, to basically tell you that there's been an update and it needs to redraw it. That's important. If you don't get that bit right, then you can be changing all your underlying values, but there's nothing to bubble up that notification to say, hey, layout, do you think you need to update yourself? So you'll never see it. Behind the scenes, you'll still have the values, but it's so good you can't see it. It's a user interface, right? So we've got the data. The next thing we need to do, we're going to give it a render item. So the data is giving a list of items. Of the I don't think I did that right. Render item. We'll get that. Okay. So the render item. Got the casing's got to be right, so I'm always checking things in the background against the API. So yeah, I think for the render item, we're going to say the item itself is of type player info. Okay. Wonderful. Now it seemed to want an index as well. I'd actually noticed that if I sort of, yeah, it's giving me a hint there that it's a nullable index, suggests there might not be an index. So what we're going to do is we're going to say index is equal to, well, I don't actually know. Navzak? Maybe like so. I thought wrong, but no, I don't think that's right. I think that might be right. Yeah, that's perfect. Oh, okay. It's weird. So what's it saying now? To not assignable to site. That's fine. So we're not quite done with this statement anyway. That's just the parameters. So we're now going to do a little sort of lambda for inline section. And if we just open close these, I'm going to put a little comma at the end of that because I know at some point I'm going to have to close that. So now we need a method, right? So the method is going to have to return something. It's returning something to actually render. So if we just say render, now we're going to need to do another function to return a type of, I think, UI node. We don't have to. We could plow it all in here. We could just completely overload this with a whole lot of layout text. But I don't like doing that. I don't think it splits it up very well. So what we can do is we can say like an AB. Maybe let's call it render. It's going to be a coupling, guys, of players and options. So I'm going to call it player option. So player option. Now this doesn't exist just yet. We're going to create this, but we're going to pass in the item. And just in case we need it, we're going to pass in the index as well. Okay. Beautiful. Okay. Again, remember you have to proceed it with this dot. And then the next thing we'll do is plot this down here. And this is going to be the item. It's going to be, so that froze for a second. The item is going to be a player intel, so you remember. And then the item is going to be a number possibly. Oops, it's my thingy gone. Let's see. Okay. Let's go just mess me up. Gosh, this is going very slow for me right now. I'm sorry to see that out there, I just noticed. Again, also that sync. Now this is saying like you can't have it. Yeah, that's the way why is that? But again, this then needs to also return the type of UI node, okay? Now it's like the errors are getting quite heavy down the bottom. Just going to make sure I haven't messed anything up. TJ, that's semicolon, that's definitely not the look back. Yeah, I can watch the, yeah, sorry guys. In terms it's automatic. So I'm going to say, we're 10, new, or 10 view, I'm sorry. So open, and then jump to the end and plot that there. So it's not enjoying this at the moment. Well, UI alarm. So yeah, okay, it's like no. So what's this now saying? Not assignable to the item player info index, not assignable to. Ah, that's interesting. Oh, so it doesn't like that one bit. That's okay. So what I can do is I can set it's going to be a number for it's undefined. And this should keep it happy now. Okay, so the answer here seems to be that I just haven't returned this. Yeah, there we go. Perfect. That's now happy with type. Wonderful. Okay. Let's move on. So render, you can see we split that quite nice. You've got our initialized UI. It's got the sort of the generic text at the top saying my awesome tool. We've got then the player list, which then just renders the dynamic list. But the actual list itself is in one layer. Then we go into actually the individual items that are entered in that list, which is where we're going to be working there. So this is where it gets, a little bit more complicated. So, and in here, we want to create a view. So each user is going to be a view, or at least each user and its buttons is going to be a view. So we've done this before. I'm going to say open, normal brackets and curly brackets. We'll put a little thingy at the end there.